So to introduce our closing speaker is Maureen Greenwood Baskian, and she's the Executive Director of the Universal Access Project, and also the Director of Policy Initiatives in the Women and Population Program of the UN Foundation. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an interesting array of speakers that we've heard today. Shall we give them a hand? I want to thank the Packard Foundation, FHI 360, and especially call out my colleague, Catherine Brandon from the United Nations Foundation for making this such a great success. It's more important than ever that we engage all of the voices and spark global conversations about the issues that matter. I'm also grateful to all of you in the room and outside of the room that are using the power of social media to amplify the voices of what's being said here today in Addis Ababa. We know at the heart of the matter is the urgency that we feel to empower the world's hardest to reach, most vulnerable women and girls. And we know that there's no better way to do that than to invest in voluntary access to quality family planning and information and services, as Dr. Asha Tamain said. It's also important to think about the theme of how we're addressing the issue of family planning. We've talked about partnerships, technology, media, mobile, youth, and science that are so pertinent to family planning. The family planning community is also a great example of partnerships. The Secretary General at the UN's Every Woman, Every Child campaign has brought together global commitments on international family planning, as well as we heard today from Family Planning 2020. We also have seen the power of traditional and non-traditional media platforms, including this, plus SocialGood, and I have to say it's been a dream of mine for many years to see a plus SocialGood just on family planning, and to see it coming out of Addis is really exciting. And we also have harnessed the power of youth and of science. We've made tremendous progress, but we still need to do more. We know that more than 215 million women and girls around the world want access to voluntary contraception, but here we are in this day and age, and they still don't have it. We know that we have approximately 700 and some days left of the existing Millennium Development Goals to reach MDG 5B, universal access to sexual reproductive health and rights. And we know that that was the one issue that was left out of the original Millennium Development Goals when it was created in 2000. So we have work, everybody in this room, as the United Nations considers the next post-2015 development framework. We need to make sure that it's not the issue that's left out again, but that women and girls, gender equality, health, and youth are central to the United Nations post-development framework. With that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Laura Turner Seidel, Director of the Turner Foundation. She is so much like her father, Ted Turner, the historic leader on population and reproductive health issues. Laura is committed to ensuring that women and girls have their full potential realized. She's an extraordinary woman who wears many hats: mom, daughter, philanthropist, environmentalist, an eco-living expert, and I've been actually hearing about being an eco-living expert the last 2 days, which has been a lot of fun. But she still manages to be one of the visionary leaders on women and girls around the world. With that, Laura, the floor is yours.
I'm just delighted to be here and to be part of this amazing conversation. I feel like I've been drinking from a fire hose already. We were at the high-level ministers meeting this morning, and just hearing the commitments from the ministers to improving the lives and the future of girls and women is so powerful. And I really think that over the past 10 years, we've really come a long way on this issue. I come from a family, Ted, what can I say? Ted Turner, who has been about women's and girls' issues, empowering them, gender equality. When I was growing up, he would talk about female genital mutilation. I've been told now the more sensitive thing to say is female genital cutting. But, and people would have to lift their jaws up off their chest because they were in shock about the topic of the conversation. And I think an aha moment really for me was after a trip to Nigeria about 4 years ago with the UN Foundation. Kofi Annan hosted that in Ghana, and then we stopped in Nigeria for a couple of days. And that's where we learned that it was 60% of the women there that wanted access to reproductive health care and contraception options and couldn't get it. That was a whopping 36 million women out of the 222 million women that want access and can't get it. And I think that this is such an important issue, truly one of compassion, to help the girls and women that are our sisters and our mothers and our daughters achieve their dreams and hope for a better life. I am an environmentalist. I spend a lot of time working through our family foundation, the Turner Foundation, and several other boards. I don't know if you've been watching what's been happening in the Philippines, and we have to make sure we get this energy and climate thing right, because all the effort that we spend on empowering women and girls and educating girls and giving them options, if we don't make sure that there's water for everyone, fresh, clean water, and that there are other resources that they need and healthy soil to grow healthy food, and we don't, we've got to, like Wangari Maathai, plant lots of trees to stop desertification and climate change and improve the situation in microclimates. What's going to happen? More Hurricane Sandys, more typhoons like we saw in the Philippines. In Australia, they had to come up with a new heat index because they had never experienced the heat before. I think they came up with a new deep purple color. And in Nevada, where I'm from, in Death Valley, it was 135 degrees Fahrenheit. We have got to adapt, we've got to mitigate, we've got to figure out what we're going to do about climate and energy. And you know what? Empowering women and girls will help them get their voices, will help them understand what needs to be done. And they need to start putting pressure on the right places. They can become leaders themselves and put pressure on our leaders to make sure that, that there's a healthy life support system in place and that we all truly have a future to look forward to. There are a couple of housekeeping things I would like to point out. We've got a couple of hashtags that you need to make notes of because we want you to tell your stories, what you've heard today, what you'll hear for the rest of the conference. Hashtag ICFP 2013, hashtag 2030 now, hashtag SocialGood, and finally, hashtag family planning. So just make sure that we're harnessing the power for social good and for these very important issues. So I charge you with that. And then also there's one other thing, that moving forward from the MDGs, of course there are gaps, and in 700 and something days we'll be transitioning to the sustainable development goals. And if you want your voice to be heard, if you have input, there is a place that you can go. It is a survey, and that is My World Survey. So myworldsurvey2015.org, and please let your voices be heard. This is the time to act, and act now. And let's see if there's anything else. I just want to thank The organizers, FHI 360, the United Nations Foundation, and the David and Lucille Packard Foundation for organizing this. And then also I'd like to thank the panelists. Thank you for being in the trenches every day of your career, for being so passionate, for being here, and for continuing to do the heavy lifting to make this world a better place for women and girls and for all humanity. So without further ado, I'll let you get on to the rest of your amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you at the opening ceremony. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Laura, for those closing remarks. I just also want to thank everyone who has participated today. Your voice will be heard, and your voice is already heard, which is amazing. And thank you, Laura, for sending us off with some inspiration and motivation and positive attitudes for the future, and we will make a difference. I see FP Live. Keep the conversation going this week. Thank you so much.